increasingly spending my time as we've grown and raised recent rounds of funding on product and with a lot of the tech integration work that we're doing.
Gino Cipperoni, Chief Revenue Officer with Dealer eProcess. Started off as a Google paid search strategist almost 11 years ago. So spent a lot of time in that world and moved around in the website space, the digital retailing space, all the different tools. So kind of everything that I think we're going to be talking about here today.
Right. So for the dealers in the room, how many of you have asked in the past one of your vendors if they had an API and they said no? Look around the room. Okay. It's the reality because dealers never saw the need for interoperability. They haven't voted with their pocketbooks. And this industry has survived with piecemeal solutions to solve individual problems. And since we weren't focused on the bigger data picture, it was slap this on the website to fix that problem, slap this on the website to fix this problem, slap this. And it worked great until someone said, wow, all these pieces, you heard Kevin this morning, all these pieces are not working together. A tool, I'm going to start with you. You've been doggedly pursuing having Orbee be the back-end plumbing to connect so many of these applications. I'm hearing for people.
Uh-oh.
And I'm not.
Is this going to be good or bad?
Yeah, this one here. Brian, yes, other outside of automotive, there are APIs, but the moment we say we're going to do an API, it's a never-ending development cost because once we build the API, another dealer is going to want something different, another dealer is going to want something different, and I'm scratching my head. I don't remember these other outside of automotive complaining that just because you open up an API, it's a complete destruction of capital because it's a waste. When dealers say to their partners, would you do an API? It's like, hey, it's too expensive. I don't have the resources. What is a dealer supposed to do or say? I mean, is that a reasonable response?
Well, certainly dealers can't dictate that, necessarily to force a vendor to have some of these capabilities. But what we find to be successful is start small. Right? If we go in too hard with this very perfect world of real-time, API-driven capabilities, then we're never going to really get there, right? So, and I know this is sort of, there's a lot of talk about, FTP file transfer data. We'll take that and just work with that for now. And so I think what we have to think about is how to start small and make it easy for all parties and then iterate from there. So that's my perspective. That's how we operate. We sort of say, hey, just let's find the easiest path to get that data in and then worry about the next step later.
I mean, CDK was an early pioneer in Fortellis. I was there at NADA for the initial launch. Each year, more and more functionality has been added to Fortellis. That is not the approach that other vendors have taken. Your idea was maybe a marketplace of APIs. Can you look back and say that was a success and a differentiator for your business, or has it been somewhat less than successful? I'm trying to navigate this hatred of API investments. I'm trying to figure it out, and you guys took the jump early. Reflect. Is it working? Is it giving a competitive edge? Is it for the people who are not doing it? What can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because we have this vision, as you mentioned, that saying, hey, there is nothing in the automotive space that is a marketplace for developers to come publish their APIs, for dealers to take advantage of, for OEMs to play, just a very agnostic open marketplace. And so that was our vision years ago when we, subsidiary of CDK, released separate from CDK, so this is open marketplace. It was slow initially for adoption. It just was, and I think that you said it really perfectly around, we just weren't quite there yet. Everybody wasn't quite there yet, and we're really excited because we have been an early adopter in this, and we have seen just, even from last year, year over year, 2x increase, twofold increase in APIs that are being published. So we have a growing developer network that's on Fortellis as well. We've got about 3.6 billion transactions that go across the Fortellis marketplace every year. We look at it from a modern retail CRM perspective, about 5 million transactions take place monthly for CRM APIs. So I would say it's absolutely, we're finally coming through to where it is being much more looked at, invested in, adopted. It's certainly helping us give us that competitive advantage in the sense that we are very focused on modernizing workflows for dealers, helping them simplify, streamline, really provide end-to-end retail solutions. And in order to do that, we really have to be very committed to having this open approach to partner integrations, and that includes robust APIs. So on the CDK side of the house, that is what we are also been working feverishly on. And last year we released, about mid-year, we released our DXP platform, our dealership experience platform. It was really about how do we take a look in a different way that is not these, separate silos of, DMS and CRM and all these different sort of separate solutions, so to speak, and what we can do to bring those silos down in a way that is a much more seamless platform. So we started down that path. We still have work to do with it, but we are firmly committed. We're spending millions of dollars in investments to upgrade, modernize APIs. We have APIs out there. We've done a good effort at modernizing some of them. There's still some work to be done. We've got modernized accounting workflows coming out, in the modern retail space. We've done a lot of work with the modernization, starting with digital retail, and then now into the CRM space and the F&I space. Next year, we're going to be really focusing on the F&I space and modernizing that. So to really answer your question, I think we're very excited because we made that investment in that leap already. We're still really committed to it with our resourcing and our development. And it's really great to hear, in the last day or so about just how there's so much opportunity when we can come together as an industry to be able to facilitate, this open infrastructure and open integration.
Gino, you recently released the Everest platform as what I believe is probably the most friendly to connect into a CDP, a data store, and the personalization that you can do with, if more vendors had APIs. What do you say to vendors that are stacking tech in iframes on websites that could be replaced as native code with API? I mean, are you finding that your platform is being held back because of lack of APIs, or what are the things you were saying, look, we built all these tools. Is it the time where dealer just says, I'm going to use dealer reprocess trade tool, dealer reprocess digital retailing tool because everything's built in, there's no iframes? Where do you see the tipping point? Are dealers willing to just, are they at the point of frustration that if their vendors aren't going to give them APIs, it's better just to go with an integrated solution?
Yeah, it's getting to that point. And what we say to the vendors that won't open up and won't let us do any sort of integration with them, we just say, well, you're kind of intentionally killing the customer experience at that point. So fortunately, there are ways around it, like Atul was saying, it doesn't have to be an open API. It can be done through FTP, or we can do it through an Orbee if we're all doing, a synchronization there. But yeah, more and more dealers are just saying, like, I know that the environment that I've created on my site has now gotten very confusing for customers. I've seen plenty of sites with 10 CTAs on one car, 3 of them are asking for a trade-in, 2 of them are asking them to calculate their payment, because they're all just parts of the different tools, right? But because nobody's integrated, you're just kind of badgering the customer at that point to where it's just a bad experience and you get a bounce, you don't get leads. It's just really overall not efficient. So we're really open, and everybody that we talk to who's on our sites, we say, can we use your DR tools payments to power our search by payment filter, right? Should be very simple to do, should be something everyone should be willing to do, but there's no willingness to open that up and integrate. So to the end of your question, yes, we are seeing a lot more dealers saying, you know what, I'm fed up with this bad experience I'm giving my customers. If an all-in-one solution can offer that sort of really good, native, not confusing experience to a consumer, that's what I want to offer people, so they'll go down that road.
Guido, you brought up something, and I don't know if anybody from the car now team at the CXO meeting, they showed us something that was mind-blowing. They released, and I think it may have been released as a press release, but they have deconstructed their whole DR tool into APIs. And you mentioned something that triggered that conversation this weekend. Did you hear what Gino was saying? Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you said, for example, Roadster's on my website, or CarNow's on my website, and it's bolted on right now because that's how everyone's doing it. But I want to do search by payments, but I want the payment count engine to be based on what the consumer maybe put in for their credit score, so that the dealer process website platform could be in harmony with the DR tool. They would say that's the coolest thing, right? That's, if the dealers picked Roadster or CarNow or Gubagoo, wouldn't it be great? And a lot of times it's, yeah, but we don't have the API. So I think CarNow's announcement is the warning shot of the battle. Because with the announcement of a fully deconstructed digital retailing tool, any dealer who, for example, wanted to work with dealer process could completely remove the iframe. More importantly, the dealer group could customize the shopper experience and brand it in their own way, right? Instead of the color schemes or layouts. I knew you talked a little bit about this, about breaking your modern retailing flow into APIs. Is this something you're also seeing from some of your largest customers? Roads is a great platform, but the problem is if 2 competing stores are in the same market, an automation implementation is going to look the same as a Lithia implementation, which could look the same as a Orbee. And someone might say, hey, I love Roadster, I just don't want to look like everyone else. Is that the idea that by breaking down modern retailing and APIs, larger dealer groups or leaning into building a true customer journey that's bespoke could start to use those tools? Is that what's coming?
Yeah, that is really what our effort at modernizing those workflows that I talked about, is breaking that down so that we can have, the flexibility on wherever dealers are at with that. Some dealers want us to have it all, packaged up for them, which is really what we call our modern retail workflow. And we've offered that. We have a modern retail suite that does just that. It really provides everything from, online to in-store all the way through contracting. And we actually just recently came out with a open modern retail suite. So, works with any DMS, that you can now have that really great experience. And then we also have the flexibility to, again, kind of what you alluded to, Brian, which is for the dealers that really want to consume the APIs themselves, really control that presentation layer. And they can just consume that, and not all dealers can do that, but we really are looking at, hey, how can we, just as you guys are looking at the flexibility that you need to provide for your consumers, how can we, as you as our customers, be able to provide the same flexibility, kind of the full cart experience, build it as you go, and or just you owning a lot of that and you're consuming some of those APIs. So we're really excited. We're just going to continue to open that up. As I mentioned, we're working on, F&I is really our next area where we're going to be bringing forth some APIs on F&I. So the idea is that you have that, singularity. For us, it's really about the data on the back end, making sure that that data flows. We talked a lot about cleansing the data yesterday, and we want to do our part. We want to clean up our side of the sidewalk, so to speak. And so making sure that one of our guiding principles, we have sort of 3 guiding principles that we're focused on. One is the data flow and making sure that that data is changed so that you have that penny perfect calculation through the transaction process. You've got we're really also looking at the user experience, not just the consumer's experience, which of course is very important, but the dealership experience. And having not these disparate solutions, having one cohesive experience for both the consumer and the dealer. And then ultimately having you guys being able to have that flexibility, not just, again, from the dealership perspective, but the consumers, and however you and they want to consume it.
I want to say something that may first sound a little controversial, but dealers, and I think it was even, I think Katie mentioned it, but there is this idea that not everyone is going to be the best in everything. And so what we've done as an industry has built Joseph's Technicolor Dream Code on our website. It's a patchwork quilt of solutions. Like, this is the best jack, and this is the best DR, this is the best Q-pump, this is the best pre-qual, this is, you wouldn't be so far. And every general manager in this room pounded their chest and said, I'm using the best of breed tools. That used to be okay. I think we're going to see a movement that either this industry is going to get on board with APIs, so the dealer still has choice of tools but can connect the data back, or dealers are going to have no choice but to pick one platform solution. And here's the reason why. The upside revenue potential of seeing the entire customer journey across all the tools. You might say, I would never go all in with CDK. I'd never go in all with Reynolds. I'd never go in all with Patel. Like, even proud about that. Either we build an open API structure where dealers will best of breed, or the larger companies with the tool sets are going to blow your doors off in a competitive environment, because has Reynolds, CDK, Cox been the fastest to innovate? No. But they've been building an infrastructure. And in a sense, the time has come that dealers have to say, we are all working off the same playbook, or we need APIs to connect it all. And if anybody thinks that their single CRM, or their single website, or their single trade tool, or whatever tool it is, will stand firm in the future without clear APIs, you are fooling yourself. No tool. You've tried to solve this problem by saying, look, we want to be plumbers, we want to get everyone to work together. What's something that you've been super proud of in your work to generate integration that dealers are seeing benefit from that maybe wasn't possible before? Because you're really working to be the independent data platform to enable better marketing, better communications. What's something that's happened in the last year like that? We're moving, something really good's happening.
Okay, so a couple of things. I think if we step back, first of all, and talk about who's using these APIs, it's not going to be the dealer, right? These APIs we keep talking about, it's for the other vendor to use. And that's really where the struggle kind of starts. It's like you've got each vendor wanting to focus on their business model, what they want to offer, what's in their roadmap over time. And if even the slightest thought is like, well, aren't we going to do that anyway in the future? That's when you start to see roadblocks in terms of implementation or integration. But what we're starting to see is this idea that we're all going to coexist, and that, you know, even if I take the DEP platform, right? We've been talking about our integration. We have a script that listens to all the events inside of the website, as well as pulling data from CDK on the back end. And then you have all these iframes, but we have a script in those as well, and we're able to stitch together that journey across all of these different use cases. We're able to do this because I feel like all of our partners are starting to say, okay, I'm going to kind of do what I need to work on, and I'm going to invest in what we're going to do. We may do what that other vendor does eventually, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and make it at least easy to implement something. And that's our approach that we've taken at Orbee, is we sort of say, don't have an API, fine, we'll go around it. You have Fortellis, cool, we'll pay for it on a metered basis. Hey, if you don't have a data dictionary, we'll figure it out, right? And so what we've been working on, what I feel has started to build momentum, is being able to offload that work and for Orbee to take on that burden to simplify it for everybody. And I think that's really where we're starting to see more openness, and people say, yeah, you know, like we have a few OEM clients, right? Another, you know, obviously we're doing some BI work, but with Honda and Acura, we're a global script that listens to events across many of the approved vendors. And that alone opened up all of those partners to say, oh wait, we already do this for a large dealer group, can we make it the same implementation? So by being everywhere as aggressively as possible, it's starting to open up people to realize it's easier to probably standardize this than keep reinstalling it over and over again. So the speed at which we're doing that is what's working for us.
And I think part of this, and Atul, I'm glad you mentioned it, it's like, of course we get, as developers, you know, I develop software, I don't like developing software, and I got out of that business, but I can understand, it's like, oh, we were building this mesh, whose other data tools out there, and you get so like blind to, hey, just make it easy for the dealer to look at their data or share their data. And I know there's these artificial roadblocks, but every roadblock that I've encountered, when the people really realize, hey, this is the dealer's data, or this is what the dealer wants, and you may not like it, but at the end of the day, you want to keep the business, we shouldn't be fighting all the time. It should just be, look, we have a DMS, get that data in and out as easy as possible. We have a CRM, let's get the data in and out as easy as possible. We have a marketing automation platform, let's make it in and out as easy as possible. Not like, well, I don't want to open up my CRM because this other company has an AI tool and we have an AI tool, but the dealer wants to use the other guy's AI tool. It's like, no way, we're not going to let, I'm like, are you really? Like, your CRM is beautiful, so maybe your AI half sucks. And the dealer wants to swap out. Are you going to say to the dealer, I'm going to hold your data captive? That's what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening right now. And unless we, as a dealer body, stand up with our lines, yes, a single point store as a tool set isn't worried about anything else. But a single point store with an operator that has vision wants to do personalization, wants to do effective marketing, wants to have some choice. If the bull card is still keep on moving in the direction that they've been moving, and sometimes it feels like the walls are getting higher and higher, something's going to break. Gino, when you think of all the people you work with, right, and some of the recent integrations, Orbee, one of them, client command, another. You do your own pre-qual, you have your own trade tool, you have your own DR tool. When a website is using all native tools or native through API, doesn't it load faster? Isn't identity easier? I mean, talk to me, because you're the one who's getting all these dealer requests. I need more leads. I need better conversion. Isn't the truth that it's hard to give the dealers what they want when you can't see what's going on in any of these iframes?
Yeah, it's absolutely the truth, and we get stuck in the middle of it all the time because anytime there is an issue like that, it's got to be the website's fault, right? And it's despite the fact that we can't see what's going on in the background of a DR tool, if the pricing is off there, it's going to be priced. The pricing is going to be off when we display it on the site, right? And so we end up being the ones that have to go troubleshoot and figure out where the issue lies, and then try to tell whoever how to fix it. So there's that issue there too. It slows down support, and it gets your whole system basically slowing down. It does slow down load times because everything's trying to load in a certain order, and if everything's just slapped on there without any sort of thought of how should this really be integrated, that's another issue too. But it still goes back to me with the customer experience thing, and what you said earlier I thought was interesting, how I have spoken to GMs and people at groups who said, I want the best for this tool, I want the best for that tool. But I don't really think you can have the best of an entire system if you're doing it one by one like that. And I like sports analogies. It makes me think of the 2005 White Sox, because I'm a White Sox fan. They are the laughingstock of baseball right now, I can admit that. But in '05, they won the World Series with 0 superstars on that team, because everybody was working within one well-defined system. Everyone knew their role, everyone knew how they had to interact with each other and what they were supposed to do. By taking that approach, they were really dominant, they won the whole thing, right? So if you start to think about that as your tools or your players on your team, if you just go for the superstars but don't think about how they play with the rest of the team, you're not gonna get the best outcome. You can't get the best outcome. So if you don't look at this API issue as I'm trying to create the best team and the best results across the team, then you're just not going to get as much out of it as you can, even if you have the best XYZ tool.
Anu, I'm going to ask an unscripted question. It's a dangerous question. Should I ask the dangerous question? Yeah. Techion. Techion came out a few years ago and said, we're going to do everything. Everything's going to integrate, open API, won't charge you a thing. Of course, they were lying because they got the DMS right. Their CRM is on, I think, year 3 of major updates. They've been stumbling to build the CRM, and there was other promises. But dealers like the fact that they didn't get charged for access to the dealers. So you could use the Techion API, and the dealer wouldn't be charged. Some of my dealer groups who are in rentals are spending a few $1 million a year. $1 million a year for the vendors to access data. It looks something like this: $400 per rooftop if you're pulling, $750 per rooftop if you're pushing. And then what happens when you have 100 stores? And the service marketing company needs the data, the CRM needs the data, your marketing automation or your CDP, and you're like, hold on, let me see. Per rooftop, $3,000 to $4,000 a month, $36,000 a year, times 100 stores. At some point, people hate the incumbents because they're like, there's no other industry in the world that charges that. Rentals still hasn't changed at all. You build Portels. And when I talk to the Portels folks, they're saying, Brian, for the average dealer, for the number of calls on the DMS, it's really not expensive. That's what I've been told. I've never heard a dealer say, I'm spending millions of dollars on Portels access. And what I'm told is that, hey, there's just some cost for data security. So CDK has seemed to be more reasonable and accommodating to giving dealers secure access to their data and vendors. Others have not. Techion's doing it for free. Does that cause any pressure on the incumbent DMS providers to say dealers are fed up with paying hundreds of thousands or $1 million plus in larger groups to access their own data? Does it seem weird in 2024 that Reynolds is off the chart crazy? You have created a democratized system which really doesn't cost the dealer much. What? And Techion says it's free. So dealers are trying to understand if we're going to move forward, why shouldn't our data access be free? What do we say to dealers that feel that their data is still held hostage?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, Brian. You know, we've spent a lot of time discussing this and, you know, kind of our strategy that I was talking about with our push for open APIs and really that two-way integration. You know, Fortellis is an app platform. You know, it's an API app platform, and that definitely requires, there's costs that are there that have to be there to really have a stable and secure platform. Which is really an open service for the entire industry to be able to capitalize on. And the folks that publish APIs on the platform, all the different third-party, you know, independent software vendors, ISVs, the OEMs, ourselves, they set the price on the consumption model there. And we are a consumption-based model. It's very similar to some other platforms like the App Store or Google Play.
Which I like.
Yeah.
I like the consumption-based model.
So, you know, I think that there is some pressure on how, you know, we don't want to ever, like, make it difficult for our dealers to get their own data. You know, we have our own, data your way for our dealers as well. And then we are, you know, we baked in some of those costs that cover the platform on this consumption-based model for Fortellis. But I do think, you know, as we're more adoption and, you know, more folks, there's lots of opportunities. You know, again, just a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities around bringing all these API integrations. I think that everyone is got to figure out a way to, as we're serving the dealer community, you know, building that into their costs of their service, building that into the costs of their goods. I mean, there is a lot of, you know, we just hired a new VP of our intelligence, our BI. And we're investing millions of dollars in BI in particular, you know, as it relates to AI and data for a reason, because we know that data is king moving forward. And so being able to do those types of investments, I think is going to be key for it. I think it's an obligation as a technology provider to be able to do that as a service, not just for our dealers, but the greater ecosystem. So I think if you're a technology provider and you're not doing that in a way that is, you know, fair and open, I think that you've got to question what you're doing.
You know, one of the things I want to challenge the vendor community as I'm trying to figure out how we move forward. Trying to be kind, and at the same time, there's just some ridiculous crap that goes on in the industry. I'm okay for a utilization model. You know, when I first looked at Teeling and Salesforce and Treasure Data, these are people outside of automotive. Their pricing was based on how many events, how many polls, right? Because they have to support the servers. You know, you're going to do 1 million data points a day or 10,000 for the vendors here. I don't want you to think that I'm suggesting that you should develop APIs and that they should be zero cost. I'm okay if a dealer group wants to connect into a CRM or a DMS or a payment tool or whatever, and you say, look, we have to support the API, behind that are servers, and we're going to do a server-based cost that's not crazy, but it covers our development costs, our data cloud security. Well, what I'm hearing is no. I'm just hearing, no, it will be a year from now, or 2 years from now, or it's not on my roadmap. And to me, I think every dealer, and let's test it. Dealers in this room, if the utilization, not some flat fee whether you use it or not, but if you were on a toll-based system that your data could talk to other data partners and understanding that their server loads, would you be open to that, paying some fee for a toll road? How many people said, I should be able to connect into your data and you should never charge me? Unrealistic, but that's excellent. The reason why, I brought up the technical mortality is that, hey, we don't know what the future looks like. It sounded good, like, hey, you don't look your data on us and everything is open. At some point, right, as you said, there's a cost to supporting data infrastructure, data integrations, and security, especially with DMS data. But other people have figured it out. I just want to encourage the developers here, look what the tool's doing, look what Fortellis is doing. They're both doing something very similar and at the same time very different. But we need to have more people plugging into these ecosystems so that folks like Gino can serve a diverse group of dealers and dealer groups, because their new platform can take signals from anybody and change the website instantly based on data. They built that. So now, what if that data still stays behind wall cards? Gino, when you look at the future of prioritizing your work, when you look ahead, for the year ahead, we've been talking about CDPs. We're talking about personalization. We're talking about real-time messaging. What's something that you are excited with Everest now? What's something that's coming because you are starting to partner with the tool, Client Command, Alcel, others, to be more seamless in the web experience, almost like what Aaron said. Consistent messaging, consistent payments, and you said the same thing. Consistent calc engine, it requires partnerships, but what's something you're looking forward to with this idea of better data partnership?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we're looking forward to is using that data to power more of what our AI is doing on the front end of the site to help the shopper journey. So a lot of what's coming down the pipe for us is a system that will essentially act like a live salesperson on the website. And the more well-informed any salesperson is about that customer and what's important to them, what their needs are, the better experience that salesperson can give to the customer. So within our system, if we're funneling in data through, say, Orbee from the CRM, knowing if they've been a past lead or even a past customer, or from the DMS, if maybe their lease is coming due, or any of that data that's pertinent to why they're on the site today, the system will know that and cater the experience to that exact information. And so that's what's really exciting, but without these data partnerships, it's only going to be as smart as the data that we can get, which is fairly robust, but it's never going to be as robust as what we can get from additional data sources outside of our own system.
I want to throw a curveball here, and I think that's awesome, and I'm excited about all this stuff that's going on in this industry. But let's take an example where a dealer group says, now, I want to build my own website, okay? And I'm going to do it in-house. I hired some developers. I have some idea. And now they're not using the pieces in like the full stack. The modularity of a lot of the tech that's being built in our industry isn't there, right? It's not like you're actually buying 10 pieces that happen to kind of connect together. You're buying this one complete solution. And so the second you try to go outside of that solution, you're back in that same spot where you're like, wait, can I use this piece over here? No, I need a new vendor for that, right? And so I think the struggle that we are, I mean, at least what we're trying to do too, and we haven't gotten fully there yet, is when we work with partners, in fact, we're working on something where it's like, I need to try to sell the idea of what Orbee does back to DEP, not just to the dealer, but to the vendor saying, hey, once you're integrating with, let's say, Orbee's identity platform or having this universal ID, you could actually store this too, and you could do more with it. And oh, it just happens that maybe there's a Fortellis ID. I don't know if there's a CDK. I'm sure there's a record ID. But just some of the work that we've started to figure out we need to do is sell vendors just as much as dealers to buy into modularity of their software and not be all in one.
Are you going to answer the question 100% truthfully? If I ask you a question, you open the door. Will you tell me the truth? If I ask you a question?
Yeah, I think so.
You're not going to open it?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Give me 3 vendors that so far that are critical for the future of automotive to integrate into Orbee that have said no.
That have said no.
Say, you need to be in here, everyone's sharing, you would help the dealer community, and the no could be not now, but the not now is like no.
You know what? Here's the thing. No one said, no, I'll give you, we don't hear no a lot. We hear it's going to cost this much. Like I have to DocuSign something. I just got an email. We hired a new VP of integration services specifically for this, and he's from Dealer Track and Cox Automotive, and he just sent me a contract this morning. He's like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost. $2,000 setup fee, $1,000 annual, and $55 per rooftop. I won't say which vendor.
For an integration.
For an integration. What we find is other people are like, okay, well, we can't give you this, but we could give you a dump, right? Of data, right? We could give it to you once a month or every day. What we find is no isn't the actual problem. That's not what we see a lot. It's what's it going to cost? All the other topics you've been covering. What's it going to cost? How do we pass that on to the dealer? Now, if say the dealer wants to get all this data to every vendor they work with, now they're paying, like you said, $55 a rooftop per vendor, and every vendor wants to pass down this cost to the dealer. So what we're learning is that no isn't the answer, but if we bear that burden and also pay that fee, and then become a proxy to other dealers, it does check and balance if the large organization wants to make money off of that. Is that a business model? Like if we pulled data from Fortellis and then made that available through some degree of automation, as long as we're not breaking the rules around data security, right? You and I talked about Epic that day, and then that evening, Epic shut off a big vendor to accessing data. If we're not breaking the terms of use, then we feel like the difficulty is really bandwidth, cost, frequency, all these other aspects. And that's where we want to simplify it. We want to say, hey, you know what? We'll bear all of that burden and we'll make it easier so that no is no longer a relevant topic. So I don't think it's no. Even in Techion's case and CDK's case and Reynolds' case, it's always been there's an avenue to get what we want, but it's always so different, you know? Some are APIs, some are dumps, some are SFTPs, and so I think, yeah, I wouldn't say that we're seeing the no's.
Okay, you didn't want to tackle it hard. Okay, so let's do it live. This is what I found out recently. A dealer can download their Reynolds DMS data and put it in their CDP. But if you use the opcode, if you send the opcode to another vendor, it violates the data sharing agreement because the service marketing company then wouldn't have to pay Reynolds the DMS tax. So they arbitrarily said, these 4 or 5 data fields are proprietary data. Your data. I didn't know opcode was proprietary. It's like 4268. That's like an oil change. That's proprietary data. So it sounds really good what he said, but have these archaic bullshit things going on. It's like a dealer doesn't own their data. And even if you got the dump, because we were like, oh, we could save $2-3 million in DMS access fees here.
Yeah, that's not this, yeah.
In the contract, it says these 4 fields can't be shared with anybody. They have to get them directly from rental. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? In 2024, that? Now, of course, I think what Arizona's law, I think is the most friendly to that, but I'm still hearing this shit.
But here's the thing, right? So it is absolutely true that the data holders will want to monetize it as a business model, right? Because when you go headless, you kind of try to find ways to monetize. And Ron Fry's on, he's an advisor to Orbee and an investor. He's also on the board of CDK. So I pick his brain a lot about this stuff. And so when you think about ops codes and you think, okay, am I going to give raw data to a bunch of vendors and just become a cheat code to get data? No, but what you can do is you can build audiences from that. You can push audiences to endpoints. You don't have to send the raw data anyway. So in fact, I do believe that part of the goal in the future is not everyone should need raw column-based, row-based data anyway. It's just, in fact, that cost is just going to proliferate in terms of storage of that data.
Yeah.
So I think there's other ways to tackle the problem.
The dealer CDP takes in the data, builds the audiences that service marketers would do themselves, push the audiences, hold the outcome.
Yeah, you don't need the opcodes everywhere, right? But if the other vendor's like, well, I want to do my own thing and I want to create my own proprietary tech, then of course they're going to want that raw data. So there are ways to support the business model. Look, if it's worth it enough, every vendor will pay for that data and they'll monetize it and productize it and do whatever they want with it. But I do believe that duplicating all the data in every system isn't needed either.
Totally understand. And then, as we close out, I'd really like to know what's new with Fortel, something exciting. Because there are people here who are building tech, who have, I have a lot of shared CDK DMS customers, Roadster customers, A-Lead customers. So what's something cool that's new to Fortel that maybe the members of the development community or the dealer community might not know is available through this interchange of vendor data?
Yeah, before I answer that question, I just wanted to make note because you said Roadster and E-Lead, and we actually have dropped those names in our effort to bring down our silos.
Right.
So it's just part of CDP modern retail now.
Modern retail.
So
I still see it in the documentation.
I know. The millions of documents that need to be updated.
I just saw an email, Roadster and E-Lead are dead. I didn't know what that meant. So, okay. Modern retail.
Yeah, and it's really, it's an internal as well as an external, but it's like we just need to not be so siloed. So let's get out. Let's
No,
talk
and
about
I think that is the right approach, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, that if CDK can communicate, watch this, the value of a dealer using their own tech stack. If you can communicate it and prove it, weaponize it like with identity, then companies like CDK will be able to win over the Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat patchwork quilt of marketing and customer data. So in this modern retail suite, in Fortel, is there anything cool that's happened recently that you see your largest customers or members of the tech community using that maybe someone might not know?
Yeah. So we have over 100. I just actually talked to Fortel's team before I arrived here just because I wanted to find out what was the coolest things. There's a lot going on in the CRM space, I will say. So that's going to be coming out. There's about 100 new APIs that are going to be coming out in the next few months here. One of the big announcements.
In CRM, did you say? Or just 100 APIs?
100 APIs across.
Okay.
I would say a large portion of the APIs are very modern retail focused and CRM focused. I would say probably half of those I would expect to be modern retail CRM. We just, a few months ago, Actually at the New York Auto Show, we announced our ACC, which is the Automotive Commerce Collab. And it's really a collaborative effort between our dealer partners and our OEM partners to take a look at how are we better connecting the customer journey. You know, Atul, you talked about, you know, the breaking down those, not the silos, but just having that connectivity going across and making sure that each, you know, the vendor integrations are working. And that's the purpose of what we were doing with ACC, which is to bring forward, and it's really based foundationally on Portello's and the APIs, is how are we, you know, from a modular tech perspective, being able to offer a solution that OEMs can leverage, dealers can leverage to connect that journey. You know, online, starting at the OEM website, it's clunky from a consumer's perspective. You know, they're online. We all know this. You know, they're starting they're getting excited. They're picking their colors, their trim package, and they go down to their local dealership, and some of that information isn't always there, and that's really frustrating for the consumer. Frustrating for the dealer as well, to not have that information, or they show up in the showroom and same thing, things have to start. So being able to have that continuous thread through the transaction journey from, you know, the online OEM side and the dealership side, and then having that from a consumer's perspective, again, having that data flow so that you are able to connect. You know, the calc engine particularly is a big one, because it's a point of frustration, right? There's a lot of work that's around, you know, wait times because of duplication of data and data entry, all of the, you know, the confirmation for compliance. There's a lot of work to be done. So our ACC is really taking that next evolution step of really connecting all the way through from the OEM to tier one side, all the way through the journey. So this is just the start. I mean, we're doing things on, obviously, on the retail side. That's really on the sales transaction process, but also coming on the service side as well. There's been a lot going on the service side to bring, again, modern APIs to bear and offer it universally. I'll offer it in an open platform. So again, regardless of your DMS, being able to offer that. So you'll be seeing more and more in the coming months of what we're doing with where we are with API. So we're really excited. And one last thing that I will say, just because Art was here talking the other day from Impel, which we have an integration with Impel, but we actually signed a partnership with them in January, we announced it at NADA, really utilizing their engine for our AI. And so that's another instance where it's a little chicken and the egg. You know, this is why the ecosystem is so great. We take a look at folks like Impel or Orbee and others that we look at and say, hey, how do we make that even better? How do we maybe open that up a little broader? And so that's one where we're actually bringing it out. So the experience, having it embedded into the CRM, is that much more better. So we're just constantly, I mean, that's really the exponential opportunity here. And it's pretty exciting to be in a place and time in history where this exponential growth with AI, there's just so much going on. And I will also say, this on the development side, from a product and engineering side, AI, I mean, we talk about AI from a consumer, you know, how it's going to help efficiencies in the consumer, but from a software development perspective, AI is going to revolutionize the way we're able to do software development and how we're able to go to market. So I expect a year from now to have a lot of exciting things as well.
Well, I want to say to everyone here who's visiting the vendor hall and shopping, as we work through APIs and partnerships and more accessible data, one thing you really have to be asking, how am I going to connect identity resolution across all my tools? Orbee has done an amazing job in bringing, as he said, their identity resolution layer through iframes. Not all iframes, because people are still coming. The vendor community, please work with the tool, what he's trying to do. Dealers in this room, stop just bolting on best-in-class solutions that you think when you're missing the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars that are possible if you could see the entire journey through a consistent and persistent identity graph. Once you understand that, you will start to look for vendors, partners, and technology working off the same identity to create that unified experience, unified message, personalized with meaning to create higher lifetime value, higher conversion, and to power your dealership through the next generation of challenges and changes that we all face. Would you give our panel a big round of applause?